Welcome back. I'm Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and it is vlog day today, so I get to see every single one of you. So right off the bat, I'm going to show you some more tumblers that I had purchased from one of you guys out there. Now this is, let me pull the card out. These tumblers here I bought two. This is by Custom Crafts by Wonderland. So this was one of the first ones I got from her. She's a little note and everything. That was the first one I bought from her. So pretty. I love how simple it is. It's like so pretty. And I love the color too. And then this was the other one that I had purchased from her as well. She did like a distressed blue wood grain with butterflies. So pretty. I absolutely love it. Love it, love it. But those are the two tumblers I had bought from her. And of course, I'm going to make sure to put down in the description box where you guys can find her shop if you want to go show her some love. But I had actually caught her on a live. I guess it was her birthday that day. And I had purchased these. So again, they were just sitting over here waiting to be able to show you guys when I had a chance. So I absolutely love them. You guys make sure you go check out her shop. And I almost forgot to show you guys. I got a little pen too to go with this. So pretty. I don't want to rush through my intro this morning, but I'm so excited to do this drip on that tumbler today. I'm really excited to see how this turns out. I've been waiting all week to do this. Before we get started, I want to show you guys my tutorial from Friday. I really love how that turned out. It is so pretty. See if I can get a little bit closer. I really love these colors. I love how that came out. I love how the peekaboo lettering is and all that. And it's so simple. Simple, but it has like, it looks like there was a lot more done to it than there was. Like I said, the hardest part was making up the decals. I know it was for me. It took me a couple tries before I was like, okay, here we go. But I did it. And I know you can do it too. But this actually has given me some ideas for some other stuff that I want to do. So I need to write that down in my book before I forget, because I know I'll forget. So I want to go ahead and get started because I'm excited. All right. So I have my drink. I have a couple pretty drinks. A couple pretty drinks here. And I'm ready to wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. So we left off last week. I had glued down our UV resin down some of these little miniature items onto my tumbler. I told you guys I was going to do the bottom as well. So I went ahead and I did a spoon and a knife and two playing cards on the bottom here. Now, I know you're probably like, how is that even going to sit flat on the table? Trust me, there's a dent in the bottom of this tumbler, okay? And everything kind of, I'm sitting everything kind of down like the spoon. The bigger part of the spoon, I'm setting it down into that dent so that way it'll be nice and smooth. And after I glued it down, I actually picked it up and looked at it just to verify that you couldn't see it over, you know, the bottom there. So it's gonna be fine, okay? But if you're just joining me right now, I'll make sure to put into the description the last week's vlog. I'll tag it so that way you guys can go watch how I started off with this tumbler here. So here in my cup, I have 30 milliliters of epoxy. Did I need that much? No, I did not need that much. But I didn't know at the time. I'd rather have too much than not enough, you know, especially when doing drips. And to add to it, this is actually a quick setting epoxy. So I'm extremely nervous, but it'll be just fine. So I wanted this resin to look like tea. So the tea that's coming out of the pots on the vinyl that I used kind of has a yellowy brown color to it. So I'm going to tint it with this translucent yellow. This is just an epoxy dye from Alumilite. I bought the whole kit. I love having it on hand for little projects like this because you never know when you might need to dye something, and they have quite an array in that kit. I'm also going to add a little bit of SOC glitter dust, sparkle dust. There we go. I know my products, okay? And champagne, just a little bit, just give it, because it's supposed to be magical, you know? It's supposed to be whimsy. It's not supposed to be exactly like tea. And then I decided to add a little bit of micro pearl. This is just the pearl. It's like just to give it kind of a shine to it. It's going to make it look more like a liquid rather than just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but you can see it after I put it on. but it just gives it a little extra pearl shine to it. I mean, that's the only way I can really explain it. So I'm gonna go ahead and stir that up really good. Now, after I got it stirred up a little bit, I thought it just needed to be a little bit more brown. So I'm gonna come back through, and I believe I added 2 drops of just teak wood, just a brown alcohol ink. It doesn't have to be teak wood, whatever you guys have on hand, okay? So I'm just gonna add 2 drops of that, and then I'm gonna continue stirring that up. Now, after I started stirring it, I got a little bit nervous because I was looking at the color and it's supposed to be translucent, you know? So I went ahead and I checked it on my glove here just to make sure, just to verify, because like I said, I got a little bit nervous. It didn't seem like it was transparent, but after I rubbed it on my glove a little bit, it's definitely transparent and it's good to go. So here's where we left off last week. You guys see I have all this stuff glued down to it, and I'm showing you right there how it's nice and flat after that spoon and knife got glued to the bottom, so you kind of see how that looks. So I made sure, okay, I double checked. Now, I mean, you guys watched me. I pretty much just stirred this up. I pretty much just got everything put into it. And I debated on if I should go ahead and start applying it now, because honestly, the work time for quick set epoxy, especially the kind that I really like to use Mr. Nola's speed dry epoxy. You only have about 10 minutes or so before it starts to get sticky and you can't really work with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and move forward with getting it started on my bottom. Now, for those of you, like I said earlier, that are just now joining me and didn't see my vlog before, you're probably like, what is this lady doing? Well, my idea is to have these drips coming from the bottom up. So that's why I'm doing it this way. That's why I'm applying it to the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and just smooth it out really well onto the bottom to make sure it's gonna get nice and smooth for me. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start smearing it onto the side as well. Now, I can't preface this enough by saying I don't want drips. What I want is it to look like liquid floating rather than drips. So drips are like long and thin, and you know what I mean? This I want to look more like liquid at the bottom. Or more like fluid, so it's more rounded, it's more curvy, it's not drippy. I I don't know, something like that, okay? So I'm just gonna take my popsicle stick and I'm gonna get it started. So I'm gonna smear on a bunch of this epoxy right along the bottom, and I noticed that I wanted it to come up quite a ways, so all I'm gonna do is pretty much this process here of just loading it on, not making it drippy. I want it to be more fluid, so I'm just trying to keep that in mind. So as I go, I try to kind of rotate it, and I kind of try to make sure that I'm taking a look at it, making sure it's not dripping too much. I'll show you guys. So pretty much what I'm doing is when you do a drip, you scrape one stick off of your epoxy, let it drip down, right? So with this, I'm smearing it around so it doesn't make those drips. And I'm making sure that I'm coming up and covering all the little things that I glued to the side as well, because I want it to look like those things are floating around inside of this this magical tea liquid that we're putting on. So here I'm just kind of showing you around the little pastry dish that I have here. I'm just taking some of my epoxy and I'm getting it up onto the pastry dish as well to make sure it just kind of looks like it's half in the liquid and half out of the liquid. And again, because I'm working with fast set epoxy, this is all going to set up pretty quick for me, and it honestly really wasn't that hard to do. So after I got it going here, I am going to actually put it onto my turner to kind of adjust some stuff here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of my epoxy, because I wanted to make sure that in the end it still had that bulbous look to it at where the liquid stopped. So I'm just making sure that I'm adding enough for it to give it that look in the end for me, and to still kind of move around just a little bit after I get done doing what I want to do to it. All right, so I added my epoxy. See how it looks so far? It's more fluid rather than drippy. I'm gonna come through and go ahead and hit it up with my torch really good, just to pop any little micro bubbles that might be in there. There really wasn't any micro bubbles though, but you know, better safe than sorry. Now I'm gonna take my gloved finger and I'm going to start removing any excess that may have formed on the bottom. So I'm just gonna take my finger and take away any excess, and I have some baby wipes sitting off to the side, and I'm just wiping off my fingers as I go with my baby wipes. Now, after I got this on there and I wiped off the bottom a little bit, I'm gonna come back through and I wanna add some more playing cards. So, and I couldn't find any more of the little forks and knives and spoons because I think my kids took them. So I couldn't find any more of those, but I had the playing cards still. And I want these to not be fully coated into that tea liquid that epoxy tea liquid that we made. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place them down and I'm gonna take my finger and just dab a little bit of that liquid over top, looking like it's more, so giving it just more depth is pretty much what I'm doing. You can see me doing it here. I'm just taking my finger and just dabbing it over it so it's not fully coated, just a little bit coated. So after I got done putting down the playing cards and I coated them up just a little bit, all I'm going to do is take that same finger that I was dabbing over those cards and I'm just going to make sure that everything is going to be level. So I did up the bottom first. That's what I always do because it always seems like the bottom gets kind of lumpy. We're going to remove any excess if we need to. Then I'm going to come back up through and I'm going to start smearing that epoxy through more so it looks, again, more fluid rather than drippy. And if you see here, I'm making sure that it comes up and around my little dish there and up over top of it. And it's starting to thicken up by now. So I don't know how long I've actually been working with it because I did speed this up a little bit, but it really didn't take too long before it started to thicken up for me. And that's when I went ahead and decided to go ahead and take it back off of the turner. And this is going to be when I start doing the up and down motion. So I'm going to stand it straight up. And then I'm gonna let that kind of get nice and curved around the edges at the top of where I have my drips. And then I'm gonna flip it back over to make sure that it doesn't run down too far. And so this is pretty much where I begin that process here. So I'm not gonna bore you with this. This is pretty much what I did. I think I did this for about 30 minutes. I think I did the flipping up and down until it completely stopped moving because it did shift a little bit. I held it this way for quite a while and then I would flip it back over and hold it the other way for quite a while because again it's fast set, so it's curing a little bit faster and it moves a little bit slower, but it still had movement to it. And there were some drips that came up from it, which I'll show you guys here in a second. And I actually didn't mind it. It looked more like splashes than anything. So again, you know, it's all in where your imagination takes you with this. And sometimes you don't have control over it and where it wants to go, but I really liked how these drips turned out. So this was after about 30 minutes or so. And after a couple hours, I actually wanted to come through and put some pinstriping on it. So I am going to be putting some pinstriping along the bottom and along the top. I'm just using real thin nail striping tape for it. And I went ahead and I put another coat of epoxy over top of it. And I think she's good to go. So after I got that going, I was like, I feel like I want to try a coaster for it. So I'm going to go ahead and get a coaster going. I'm not going to be able to finish that today with you guys because this was like last minute. I was like, let's do a coaster. So this is quite a bit of epoxy. I can't remember how much I put in there, but it was 2 pumps each of my regular epoxy. And I'm going to add some poppy. This isn't the original glitter that I used on the tumbler itself. So this comes out a little bit more pink than I wanted it to, like more pale pink than the kind of golden, real light pink that I wanted. But it's all good. I think we can make it work. So I'm going to go ahead and I divvied up my epoxy here and I'm going to put a little bit of the gold that I added to my tumbler into it and the pink. And then we're just going to mix that together into our coaster here. And we're going to make a nice coaster to kind of match it as well. So when I put 2 different colors like this, I just kind of hold it up so that way the one color doesn't go too far up the coaster before I get the other color on top of it. And I'm just going to fill that up really good. And another thing that I like to do is I like to come through and I like to tap it really well to help get out any of those air bubbles, especially in the chunky mix there, to rise to the bottom of the coaster there so that way I can get those popped. So I'll just take my tray here and I'll tap it on my table a bunch of times and then I just spritz it with some rubbing alcohol and then I go place it in the flattest surface I have in my craft room, which is where my turner is at. That table is nice and level. So I'm gonna go place that over onto where my turners are and then we'll get this finished up next weekend with each other. All right, because I got this done so early this morning. I can go ahead and handle it now. But I am so in love with this. I'm so happy with how this turned out. Hi, BB. I was just showing everybody my cup. Oh. Okay, I'm going to show everybody my cup, okay? Okay. But take a look at that. I love it. And it looks more like splashes than drips. That's exactly what I wanted. Oh, here's the bottom. I signed it. I went ahead and I signed it. I'm remembering. But nice and flat on the bottom. Put it into that dent. I really like how that turned out. And I just put the pinstriping right along the bottom and right along the top. And that's just nail pinstriping that I used there. Because I debated on whether I was going to put the pinstriping on it or not, but it looks great. I like it. And we will be getting the coaster. Hopefully the coaster goes as well. We'll be doing the coaster and all that next Sunday. So, and I gotta get started on this order that I have that I need to get done. So I'm gonna be getting started on that and the coaster for this next weekend. Anyways, I think that's gonna do it for me today, guys. I gotta go inside, get everybody ready for school for tomorrow and all that. So I hope that you guys have an amazing rest of your day, an amazing rest of your week, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys. Can I say bye? Bye.